So hopefully I remember that later. We'll try to look that up by the end of the stream. And then just remember. See, now I've gone off on tangents. I'm trying to remember where I'm at. So, yeah, this year is going to be desolate, meaning they're going to return us back to a primitive age, or the world will be barren. And I think what that means is essentially the whole world, they want to be a desert, and they will basically just live off 1,000 years, maybe even to their own destruction, off the fruits of our labor that we have produced. Or they'll keep some machines around, or a hybrid species of human that's not actually us but represents us, and they'll use them as slaves to basically maintain them for 1,000 years. Either way, all of this has been done so that they could rest for 1,000 years, which is also funny because they've never really done any work anyways. But I think they're tired and exhausted of all the plotting and scheming, and they just don't want to do that anymore. I'm just saying. So, contrary to popular belief, the Hyksos calendar begins with the creation of Adam. Yep, just as I've described. Not the creation of the universe. So a lot of Christians and creationists think that the world has been here for 6,000 years. No, the world hasn't been here for 6,000 years. What's actually going on is we're about to enter into the 6,000th year before another 7,000-year cycle. In which case, if these are an immortal people, I've also pondered whether they're actually, they've already achieved immortality, and that's why they planned for so long. But it's possible that the Messiah for this 7,000 years is actually the Adam of the next 7,000-year cycle. And whenever they break the cycle after the 7,000 years, it's like God has become angry again or something. And I don't know. They just really like these cycles. So I wouldn't put it past them to have these ideas. They have this idea of reincarnation as well, that all these figures from the Bible are recreated or reincarnated over and over and over again. So they believe that this Messiah is actually the reincarnation of David, which is why they call him Son of David, because he's a reincarnation of him. So I actually have this chart off to the side, which I should have added something, which I added later because it's described later. Yeah, I'll just read that later. So it says the Sabbath is the resting day. It's the 7th day they can rest. The Shemitah, after 7 years, the 7th year they rest. The Messianic age, after 6,000 years, they get a whole 1,000-year period of rest and it's peaceful for them, awful for everyone else on earth. So, Talmud and Midrash. The Talmud comments, Rav Katina said 6,000 years the world will exist, and 1,000 it shall be desolate, as it is written, and the Lord alone shall be exalted in that day. Abiah said 2,000 years it will be desolate, as it is written, after 2 days will he revive us. On the 3rd day he will raise us up, that we may live in his presence. Interesting. Tanya taught. That's another thing. In accordance with Rav Katina, just as the Shemitah year occurs 1 year out of 7 years, so too does the world have 1,000 years out of 7,000 that are fallow. As it is written, and the Lord alone shall be exalted in that day. And further it is written, a psalm and song for the Shabbat day. I'm not reading the sources from the Bible, but they are there if you want them. Meaning that day is altogether Shabbat. And also it is said, for 1,000 years in your God's eyes are but a day that has passed. A Tanya from the school of Eliyahu taught, the world consists of 6,000 years, 2,000 unformed, or tohu, and 2,000 of Torah, 2,000 years of the era of the Messiah, but due to our many sins, many of those have already been lost. So, I think that Tanya is coming from this Hyksos bloodline doesn't always agree 100% on these things, but sometimes that might just be them deceiving us, so we have to sift for the truth. But that's not what most sources say. I think he's just more or less trying to bring Christianity into the equation, but their actual messianic figure is this upcoming 1,000. In Kabbalah, the Zohar states, in the 6,000th year of the 6,000, or no, in the 600th year of the 6,000, i.e. 5,600, or 1839 to 1840 Common Era, or AD, as it usually is. I put that's actually just after the Renaissance and during the Industrial Revolution. So they're describing the Industrial Revolution, by the way. The gates of wisdom on high in the well springs of lower earth will be opened. This will prepare the world to enter the 7,000. Just as man prepares himself towards sunset on Friday for the Sabbath. No, days always start at night, by the way. They are a moon cult. I do believe that. So, what's interesting about this is there's something I wanted to point out, and I'm trying to think about how to phrase this. So, the gates of wisdom open. Basically, I put on the side, gates of wisdom was when Kabbalah was allowed to be introduced to the Hyksos outside of the elite. So it was more commonly available. I actually believe that the age that we're in, since we are getting so close to this, and they call this the birth pain era, that this is the reason why we are actually getting some of this knowledge and translations in English to where we can learn about this stuff. If you look hard enough, you can find the Zohar online. You just got to look hard enough. So, interesting stuff. And I think, what I wanted to bring up. I actually believe, and I did believe this before Silas's video, but that we did have ancient technology. Now, other people don't agree with this, and I could be wrong, and I will admit to that. But if this is correct, and we did have technology in the past, at the end of a previous system, that is because they have allowed these gates of wisdom to be opened up. Now, the technology has always been created by us. They don't actually do anything themselves. They just rule over and supervise everything. So they tell us what they want made, and we fall for it thinking that it's beneficial to us, when in reality, it is entirely destructive. So, I don't believe that they create the technology, but I do believe they decide when we can actually release it. Like, they'll suppress it in the past, they'll find ways, they'll call it heresy, just like they try to hide the continent of America by creating this flat earth myth. If you fell off the earth, if you try to go in the direction of America, you would fall off the earth. And the reason for that is they didn't want people finding out about their secret land until they were ready to open up these gates of wisdom. The Zohar explains further, the redemption of Israel will come about through the mystic force of the letter Vav, the letter 6. It has the numeric value of 6. Namely, in the 6th millennium. Happy are those who will be left alive at the end of the 6th millennium to enter the Shabbat, which is the 7th millennium, for that is the day set apart for the Holy One, on which to effect the union of new souls with old souls in the world. They're talking about specifically their souls. And notice how they wrote, happy are those who will be left alive at the end of the 6th millennium. First off, if any of us are left alive, we will not be happy. Second off, the fact that they even say that implies that not many people will be allowed to enter into this era, including Hyksossian descent. Only the most Hyksossian bloodline of the Hyksossian bloodline, the actual people who ruled will be allowed to enter. So ruling elite, yay. Lower level, well, you were just useless dupes. So, you might share some similar history, but in the end, you're just useless dupes to them. I don't really expect that to change any opinions, but fact of the matter is, you should probably think about that. The acceptance of the idea of the 7th millennium representing the Messianic age across the two different classes of Hyksossian bloodline divine, you're going to have to look into that. It's common knowledge, but I'd recommend looking into that. The Hasidim I don't know. All right, the Hasidim Misnadim divide, and across the rational Talmud and mystical Kabbalah perspectives, shows the centrality of this idea in traditional Hyksossianism. Rabban wrote that the 6th millennium will see the coming of the Messiah, and the 7th millennium will be the Shabbat of the world to come, wherein the righteous will be resurrected and rejoice. He argued that Genesis 2:3 and God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it refers his blessing to the world to come, which begins at the 7th millennium. Exactly. So, I wrote that if Hyksossians had cured death already, this could mean they will come out of hiding. Like the ones you think are dead, they might come out during this period. I also wrote in the first part, I forgot to mention it, that all sects of Hyksossianism believe that. And then I also wrote, the Zohar implies that only a few will be left alive to enter into the Sabbath millennium. This leaves us with about 4 options. One, it could be that only Hyksossian will be allowed to live with machines serving as slaves. 2, only Hyksossian along with a few Gentile slaves will be allowed to live. 3, Hyksossian will breed genetically engineer. They will breed or genetically engineer a slave race, which they can also feed on for food. Or 4, they'll just destroy us all or most life on the planet, surviving in bunkers or underground tunnels for 1,000 years, and the cycle will begin again. Now, I actually do believe that these tunnels or bunkers are a huge part of their plan. And so I actually think it's sort of a mix between 3 and 4. I don't know why I wrote it out that way, but I'm just sort of writing out my thoughts as I go along. So just keep in mind, that's what I was thinking at the time. Hold up just a second. All right, so I'm actually thinking, if you guys want to, I might take a quick break just to rest and get something to snack on, because I've been going at this for a while and my mouth is getting a bit dry. So